From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I'm Mike Maxson. That's Brandon Gray. And we're back for another week, man. You ready for this?
Ready to roll, coming off the 4th. And I know you had a good time, shot some fireworks. So,
oh, yeah. Us bomb guys can't help it. We just have to, man, it's just, I'm the god of hell and fire, man. Just how it works.
We had some folks over, cooked, grilled out, kids were swimming, music was playing, you know, it was very Americana. Shot a few fireworks. I don't think anything to the level you guys had, but it was good.
Hey, one thing I will say this to everyone listening, quick Army story for everyone was, being in an explosive ordnance disposal. I've been deployed for a few 4th of Julys, I think 3 of them. And, the base came to us and they would be like, hey, any enemy ordnance you need to destroy, you need to set it up so we can all watch. And we would run out there with just, all the captured enemy ammunition we get, and we would line them up to demo it. And we would have it, all set to go off at different times. And what we would do to create the real fireworks is you stack the white phosphorus rounds on top. And so when you set those suckers off, you're talking phosphorus just splashing everywhere. Now, you don't want to get that stuff on you because it burn it right through you. But there was nothing like the rockets red glaring for that.
So I was thinking, the rockets red glare.
Yeah, man, you just get those rounds, enough phosphorus comes raining down. You do not want to be close to. I have done some demo ops where we thought it was pretty funny to just do that in general, and you better back away because that phosphorus comes raining down. But for 4th of July celebrations, it was pretty awesome.
Pretty cool.
All right, enough Army stories here. Okay, we're continuing Know to Grow, right, Brandon?
Hey, we got a segue here from fireworks. If your sales aren't on fire, hey, there you go. Wow. Then why? What's going on? Know to Grow. So for those that maybe didn't listen to the last episode, you need to go back and listen to that. It's where we introduce the topic while we're talking about it. 2-second recap. We're in a marketplace right now that in order to grow, you got to go steal market share. And it's a big challenge for a lot of companies right now. A majority of calls we get on, it is the number one issue. And so we thought, hey, let's do a little bit of a mini series here. Let's attack it. Let's talk about the things that we're discussing on our calls whenever clients are challenged, whenever it comes to growth. And so disclaimer, we don't have a silver bullet. Wish we did. We don't have a sales technique, a marketing technique, and what have you, that you fire that and everything's going to be corrected. Okay. But what we do have is an analytical approach of trying to really determine based on the data, what's going on and what do we need to do about it. And so we talked a little bit on the last episode about, hey, you might have to expand geographically. You might have to expand service and products. You might have to shift and change your existing offerings based upon what the marketplace is receptive to. We talked about making sure that you're focused on your highest margin products and services, those types of things. And so we're going to go a little bit deeper as we kind of continue to explore Know to Grow. So today, what we want to talk about is kind of getting down in the weeds, and it's data that you should have. If you don't have, you need to start tracking it, because whenever the question comes out there of, okay, why aren't you growing, and you don't have any data around it, it's really hard to put your finger on the things you need to correct. So we're going to talk about a handful of things from a data perspective, what you need to look at, what you need to track, what you need to do about it if it's not where it should be. So the first one, Mike, kind of kick us off here. Let's talk lead flow.
Yeah, well, we know this from intimate experience, just in our own tracking of leads. I mean, we are a business, so we do have to do it. And I think of all the times I have had companies that have come to me with sales problems, they have missed opportunities of seeing this ahead of time because they weren't tracking their lead flow. They weren't tracking it on any sort of just how many calls this month or last month or ever. They weren't tracking it on a rolling. They were tracking nothing to do to identify the trend and movement of lead flow. And so lead flow is extremely important to sales, if you couldn't imagine. And so tracking your lead flow, seeing where they're coming from, seeing how they're getting to you, seeing those channels that are effective, because we're going to talk about it at some point, right, Brandon? Marketing spend, marketing investment. And if you start investing dollars in places that aren't working, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And tracking leads, you can, every one of my clients that's listening to this right now knows the first thing I ask on every consulting call every month is, so how's your lead flow? And it's awesome that after I work with them for a while, they just start off the call. Well, leads have been great, or leads have been down, and they're tracking it. And then most of them were tracking it before, but they've gotten more intentional about it. And I love the concept of really breaking down that lead flow and where it's coming from.
Here's what we see from the best. Not just looking and writing down, hey, I got this number of leads. That's a starting point. But the best are able to look at it comparatively speaking to same time from last year, because many businesses have seasonality. The better metric is to look at it on rolling 12. Just like we talk about the performance of the company on the financials with the P&L, looking at the rolling 12, it takes out the anomalies and what have you. You'll do the same thing with lead flow. So, go back in time, look at, okay, let's get 2 years of data. What does our rolling 12 trend start to look like? Are we seeing that move up? Are we seeing it move down? Really like that approach. We also see many times from clients, and this can be a little bit of a judgment call, but they will break it down into, okay, this is a lead that has a 75% or greater likelihood of closing, a 50 to 75 and below 50. If it's a way to look at, am I getting the right kinds of leads in? Years ago, I had a client that was experimenting a little bit with digital advertising. And this is, I say years ago, this is probably like, 10 plus years ago. And we get on the call and they're just talking about lead flow and how great it is and the numbers and what have you. And we get on the next call and they say, well, what we thought was great was really fool's gold. It was a bunch of tire kickers. And so you want to have some idea of the quality of lead flow, not just the quantity. And then probably the most difficult thing to track, unless you have a way to track it through a digital means, or you have some type of code, or you have a special phone number. Years ago, telling myself my age a little bit. So I helped do a little bit of marketing for an HVAC company. And at the time, the yellow pages were like gold, right? I mean, you had to have the yellow page ad, and the yellow page ads had a special phone number on it so we could track who was calling from seeing us in the yellow pages. You got to have an ability to track not only lead flow, but where those leads are coming from. And it can be as simple as asking the question whenever someone calls. If you're in a high volume type of business, they may or may not give you the correct answer. Oh, well, I heard a radio ad, or I saw a TV ad, and that's why I called. Okay, well, did you notice the TV ad because you had heard on the radio and you'd seen a billboard and you got a piece of direct mail? I mean, I get it. It can be a little difficult to actually put your thumb on what was driving it, but you need to know, without a doubt. And based upon the information you're getting there's some neat things that you can do. So Mike, talk a little bit about what does lead flow indicate relative to the right media?
Yeah. So time and time again, you hear people, we're just investing in all these conferences. And then they come to find out after tracking lead flow that, they only get really leads from 3 of them. Yeah. And then they're like, whoa, we've just been spending $20,000, $30,000 on 9 other conferences we never go to per a pop. And then we have to, then they make the cut. When you track your lead flow and where it comes from, and it goes to the adage of like, hey, cut what's bad, double down on what's good.
Right.
And when Brandon says the best, what the best do is they recognize that because they're routinely tracking, they can shift and be a lot more nimble with their marketing dollars. And so, for example, right now, I'm throwing it out there. Google ads are high. Well, we're doubling down on Google ads and we aren't going to a conference, or maybe we just go to one or two that we're really good at. Or maybe billboards are working right now, or direct mail, whatever it is. They're constantly tracking to see that response rate, see the generation of leads, and doing it. Another thing that I think is a huge indicator that people miss is that it can show you the shift in the market. I had a client that was during the COVID time, he was able to hit a lot of the middle class, upper middle class with his product. He does custom stuff. I don't need to get into that, but well, what happened was as we came out of COVID, interest rates go up, the housing market changes. Next thing you know, it's really weird. My lead flow is down. Well, here he was marketing to a market that was no longer buying from him. And so when he realized this, he was able to shift and direct his marketing dollars towards the right group of people that were going to buy for his stuff at this current time. So it allows more of that shift in the marketplace and you deciding on, hey, what's actually working, what actually is not, and where to invest my money. We have everyone who wants to cut costs. Well, guess what? That is either a, maybe not a cost cutting, but a cost saving measure allows you to take dollars and invest somewhere else.
Exactly. Great points. So let's just say lead flow is where it should be. You look at it rolling 12, it's going up, but you're still not hitting your margin dollar targets. Let's peel the onion back and go a little bit deeper. The next one's going to be closing ratio. So what percentage of deals are we actually landing? And once again, tracking it's imperative. The more detail you can track around it, the better. Once again, rolling 12 is kind of your best way of looking at this data to start to see the movement and where it's going. And so when you start looking at the close ratio, let's say it's going down. If we're closing less deals, we got plenty of leads, it's going down. Okay, what do we do? So Mike, what are some thoughts there when you're in that situation?
Yeah. So I'm with you on how much are we offering? Are we closing? And then what types of deals are we closing? Because that could then lead into how is our services currently being structured, or what is the market currently interested in buying from us? So if for example, all of a sudden you notice that, man, people are only buying widget A and no longer widget B, why are, maybe you got to do something around widget A or what have you. Brandon, that's a terrible example. I mean, I got to think of something better than that. We'll just go with the widget example. But when you see the sales close rate, it's not always maybe the salesperson's fault, but it can be the type of service, the way you're delivering it, the way you're potentially marketing it, packaging it, that could then bring you into finding the answer of why that could be down. Maybe the market doesn't value your full service package anymore that you only offer, and it wants carved out pieces of it, or vice versa. That's what that's what tracking your the close ratio can do for you. I mean, there's a bunch of other examples, but I think to me, it can tell salespeople success. But if you have a really good salesperson that all of a sudden is struggling to sell and get sales, it could be something else like service delivery.
It's funny whenever we talk to clients about this, the marketing team points when you're not hitting, the marketing team's pointing at the sales team and the sales team's pointing back at the marketing team, right? They're saying, hey, we're not getting the right kind of leads, even though we're getting the volume or what have you. But there's three things that kind of stand out to me. So the first thing that I typically ask people is, do we need to examine our sales process?
Yeah.
So has something changed, and we're going to talk about this here in a second whenever we hit on another metric, but is the market less receptive? Is it taking longer to close deals? Is the process we're using, does it have too many touch points in it? Are we getting to decision makers quick enough? Do you have salespeople that aren't following the process? And so I'm very process oriented. So the first thing I get to is, okay, well, how's our sales process? Do we need to revisit? The second one, it might kind of hit on this one, competitive advantage, your value proposition. You can have one of the best value propositions and competitive advantages, but if the market is not receptive to it, you got to change it. And the market has changed. If you have not revisited your competitive advantage value proposition in the last 2 years, you need to take a real look at it because the market has changed over the past 2 years. What was once appealing in 2023, 2024 is no longer as appealing right now. And just like Mike mentioned, you might be trying to sell the whole enchilada when turns out they just want chips and salsa. I don't know where that came from, but nonetheless, you get what I'm saying there. You sometimes have to really kind of determine, all right, how do we reposition things? And then the third thing, and this is the one that most of the time we're slow to recognize and slow to react to. Do we have the right people? I made a little bit of a comment on I think it was last week. There are two types of salespeople: deal makers and deal takers. And if you've got a bunch of deal takers right now, what I mean by that is they're just taking whatever comes in, processing it. They're not selling it. They're not able to take a person who is mildly interested and move them up the chain to becoming very interested. You got to sell in the current market. And I would say really since about, 2010, 2011, somewhere in that neighborhood until about 2021, you didn't have to do that. You could hit your numbers, make a ton of money as a salesperson being a deal taker. You just had to not screw it up. But as we've seen the market get tougher and tighten up, now you've got to be a deal maker. And unfortunately, we've got almost a generation of sales teams that haven't been trained on how to make the deal. It's you bring in the graybeard who was selling back in the 90s and they can close the deal, right? That's the kind of team you got to have right now. So you got to look at your people, and you're tracking, once again, close ratio by person, what's happening. And I would say a lot of times, back to kind of tying all this together when it comes to the people side of it, one of the most dangerous things is a salesperson who has an ability to occasionally hit a grand slam. They don't follow the process. They're not working the phone. They're not having the meetings. They're not following up with folks. And every other month they hit just a huge deal. And you kind of go, why is that a bad thing? Well, what happens whenever the market shifts and you can't hit those huge deals? Now you're not getting the base hits. You've been swinging for the fences. You haven't been working the process, and it catches up with you. So you need to make sure your people are not only the right people, deal taker versus deal maker, but also that they're following your sales process. Mike, can you have thoughts on that?
Kyle Schwarber of sales. That dude is on pace for 60 home runs and to break the strikeout record this year.
Yeah. So real client example. Lead flow looked great for this client. Margin dollars were not growing. Close ratios were okay, going down a little bit, nothing massive. So as part of their sales process, they have a quota for the number of in-person meetings per week. In-person being key. It's not a phone call. It's not an email. All right. Your face and their face are together at the same place. So they started tracking this with their team, and they started realizing they had a substantial number on their team that they were sending emails. They were doing phone calls. But guess what they weren't doing? The in-person meeting. So they discover it. They put the things in place to make sure that changed. And guess what magically happened to close ratio?
It improved.
It improved. Why? Because they started following the process. So coach your sales team. All right, Mike, let's move on to the last one here. This is perhaps my favorite one in the current marketplace.
I was going to say that too.
Days to close. This is where you prevent folks from hiding behind the data. So lead flow looks great. Close ratio looks great, but margin dollars aren't moving and you're scratching your head. Well, it's because it's taking so long to close the deal.
Can I say real quick why this is my favorite one?
Sure.
Let me just say real quick. Every one of you, because it's in a few months, everyone will be getting a plan for 2027. I can't believe we're in the July already. So I have my first planning meeting with a client in August. So it's coming. All of you are going to set your revenue target. budgets. You're going to set spending budgets. You're going to pass them, get ready for departments and what they got to do. You're going to make hiring plans. And you're going to base it, a lot of it on, hey, we're going to grow 20%. We're going to grow 50, whatever it is. Well, every time a client does this, and all of a sudden, 3-4 months in, I don't know why we're so far behind. I mean, we're making sales. We are making them. I mean, look, this is good. We're at least the revenue's moving up. But what they don't realize is that they have a slow bleed on that. What's once deals taken a week is now 2 weeks. And well, guess what? If you want to hit a revenue target and you got to do it in 52 weeks, well, guess what? Well, when the sales are just all pushed out an extra week, every single deal, well, guess what? You're not going to hit that revenue target. And so you're spending money, hiring people, making calls, thinking you're going to hit this dollar. And it might be other than lead flow, to me, might be one of your biggest leading indicators of whether or not you're going to hit your target. All right, go ahead.
Great point. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of what I was going to say. If there is one thing that just about every company right now is dealing with, it's an increase in days to close. It's a very uncertain marketplace. And if you start tracking this, you'll start to see, like Mike said, it used to take us 30 days to close the deal. Now it's taking 65, 70, 90. The leads are there, but at some point in time, this is where a good hygiene on that lead flow list comes into play. You got to remove them because they may appear to be engaged. They may be talking, but every time you talk to them, it's next month. And you just keep hanging on. And what ends up happening is we're on calls with clients and forecasting out. They're getting data from their team and they're saying, hey, we think this is what we're going to do in revenue next month. Well, it was based on all these deals closing that are getting pushed. And then we get on the call the next month and we go, we missed it. Why do we miss it? Well, they didn't commit. They didn't. So once again, when this happens, you got to dissect it and start to determine why. So first place you look internally, back to what we talked about earlier with close ratio. I look at it with days to close. Is our process flawed? We need to be closing deals in 30 days, and it is impossible to close them in 30 days because of our process. There's a bottleneck somewhere in it. It could be, hey, getting the proposal out, or we're not following up timely enough. It's too complex. One of the moves you see, especially if you're selling to what I call the bigs.
Yeah.
They all have their approval process. I mean, if you start dealing with procurement, you're going to learn it real quick. And it might be $100,000 deal that you're bringing to the table. And if 75,000 is their cutoff before it has to go up the chain, you need to find a way to split that deal up. So we're going to do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and they're all going to be $25K. Because then it can be approved very quickly, and you're not sitting around waiting on someone who's on vacation for 3 weeks to approve a $100,000 deal. And, so they could get through one phase and cancel it, but that's better than 0 phases. So I got to kind of look at my process. I got to look at, do I need to break down spend to where I can get kind of flying under the radar with some of those approval levels that people have the authority to approve upon. And then the other one, and this is the one that you speak to any sales coach and they will tell you the ball is massively dropped many times in the follow-up process. So what does that look like? If it's taking you a while to close deals and you're not following up as you should, that's on you.
You got times when you follow up and someone's like, oh man, dude, I'm so sorry. I went on vacation right after we talked. Yeah. Totally wanted to do this, got behind. Thanks for reaching out. Let's move forward. That's guaranteed 5 times a year for us.
I had a client that was, they were tracking this, so they kind of knew how long it should take, and they started seeing it going up. And they made one tweak to their follow-up process, just one slight change. And they tested the ones, they did an A/B test on it. They tested the ones they made the tweak in, they tested the ones they didn't. And the ones they did were moving 50% faster. It was just a small adjustment to the follow-up process. And it doesn't have to be massive. It wasn't overly time-consuming or expensive, but just a small little change to kind of create a little bit more urgency, to perhaps follow up and create a little bit more confidence that you're the best solution for their issue. You got to look at it and track it. Make sure, your team, whether it's the salesperson, whether it's, a sales admin, whoever it may be, that you have a process in place and that's being followed on. Because like Mike said, it's top of mind for you, but it's probably not top of mind for that prospect. So you need to be out in front of them. So those are just a handful of things, numbers wise, that we always ask about whenever we see margin dollars aren't moving. What are you doing in terms of lead flow? What are you doing in close ratio? What does it look like in days to close? And once again, track all of those on the rolling 12. Once you see an issue, you got to peel the onion back and dive into it, see what's going on there. So, Mike, any more on this before we shift gears?
No, I think we hit them all there.
All right. So the next one, we're going to talk about marketing. So, what do we track there? What are the kind of the key indicators? What does your marketing plan look like? We're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to also talk about capacity. Sometimes people aren't growing because they don't have the capacity. So how do you know if that is the issue? So we're going to talk about those two things on the next one. Should be a lot of fun. And then the fourth one in the series, we'll kind of land the plane and got a handful of things there that we want you to keep in mind of, hey, okay, I have corrected the issues I was having. I'm able to improve lead flow. I'm improving close ratio, decreasing days to close. My marketing plan's working. My sales team's selling. Okay, all that's great. Now, here's what you need to know is coming up next. It can be a blessing or it can be a curse whenever you start to see that margin dollar pickup. So we're going to cover that. Mike, tell everybody about the summit.
Oh, yeah. Everybody, we have said it on every podcast.
Everyone.
Keep saying it. November 9th through the 11th, our first ever Simple Numbers. Well, we're calling it the summit, but it's our conference, our first ever conference. We're excited about it. We got great speakers to include myself. So, so I didn't say Brandon. And we will
taking shots at me, man.
But no, we, obviously the man himself, Greg Crabtree, will be there. And then we have a great speaker lineup, simplenumbersummit.com. And Brandon, I believe the promo code is podcast 26.
That's right. Yeah. You get a discount. But you need to go ahead and register for this thing because the discounting going to last forever. Capacity isn't always going to be there. You need to go ahead and punch your ticket. As Mike said, we got a great lineup. We're going to have a few of those folks come on as guests as we kind of make our way through and get a little bit closer. So you're going to get a little bit more insight, a little bit of a primer as to what's happening there. And just kind of looking through the attendee list so far, I'm excited about, a lot of our clients that are coming. We got some folks that are friends of Simple Numbers coming, folks that are interested in what we do and just learning more. And I'll tell you, there are not a lot of places out there for you to bring your team and to invest in their education and them to learn something that they're going to be able to go and apply. I mean, we get that question all the time. Where can I carry my team? What books should they read? What podcasts should they listen to? What conferences should we go to? And as we look around, there's not a ton. And so if you want real world entrepreneurial things that are going to impact, and our breakout sessions do just that. I mean, they are going to allow them to pick, hey, I'm in charge of operations. Okay. Well, you might want to go to the leadership development one. Building a great team.
Let me do a teaser, Brandon. We just landed. This is a done deal. We got he's a former guest on the podcast, Tyler Smith, EOS coach. He'll be giving a breakout session on EOS. So some of you who are out there who are wondering, like, hey, is this something for me and my business? He'll be doing a breakout session on EOS, which a lot of our clients use. So that's a new one that just came on board.
Great. If you're trying to figure out this world of AI, guess what? Alan Pence is going to be there. He and I talked last week about some of the things that he is planning already to go over. So, I mean, there's going to be things, and you can find that on the website, simplenumbersummit.com. The breakout sessions, the keynote sessions, your team's going to be elevated. They're going to learn more. And as we said, the magic happens when you're around other entrepreneurs. So go ahead and register for that. Podcast 26 is discount code, and we'd love to see you there.
Austin, Texas.
Giddy up.
That's right. All right. Well, for Brandon, I'm Mike, and we'll catch you next week talking about some marketing.
See y'all.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.